Welcome to episode 202 of Navigating Now. This is part of our Meet the Team series, and we have Jonathan Perez here on the line. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you.
One word for how you're coming in.
The first word that came to mind is coming in hot. Let's do this. Let's go.
Great. All right, I love it. I'll meet that energy for sure. We've done this before. You have done this 2 times now. One of which you actually weren't a part of the team yet. And then we also have connected both of us on the line one other time. Do you remember that conversation, how that kind of went?
Yeah, the other one was on assessments and why you shouldn't take them personally, which is a good one. If you want to go check it out.
Yes. Awareness tools, not assessment tools, right?
There it is. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that was a good one. I can't remember what episode number that was, but we will leave our viewers to go do their homework and find it. It was a good one. So this is a special episode because we get to talk all about you, which how often do we have that opportunity, right? And the viewers are here for it. So let's dive in. I'd love to hear what was life like before Thoughtium and what got you here?
Yeah, well, I would say over the last 6 years, I've been always deeply fascinated by humans, and generally that's been my passion, how humans work and the interconnections and how we relate to each other and connect with each other. So before that was a big journey I was on, is really going deep into my studies and understanding how we operate as human beings and the different ways in which we communicate and relate to each other. And so I went deep into building a coaching practice, supporting individuals and groups. And so I went out to really build out my coaching skills, essentially, and supporting different leaders across different levels and different tools and skills. But mainly it was all focused on leadership, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, managing stress, and high performance. And so when I came on the first time, we talked about embodied leadership, which was a huge topic of interest of mine. Like, what did it mean to actually embody leadership, not just talk about it? And then connecting with the team, I got super interested in the work that Thoughtium was doing. So, I reached out, and of course the magic happened, and now I'm here.
Here you are.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm curious how your perspective of embodied leadership, what was it then and how has it maybe shifted since?
I would say the main thing that comes to mind is and I've been there, is it can be intellectualized, even the term embodied, right? And I wouldn't say it's necessarily shifted a whole lot, but I think what I have more of is even my own personal experience of what it means for me to really embody what I believe, or embody the things that resonate with me, or the things that stand out in terms of what does leadership mean? What does it mean to be in integrity? What does it mean to be a team player, so to speak, and really practice living those things rather than just talking about them. And there's always levels to it. So for me, it's changed in a personal experience of really walking the talk.
Do you have an example that you want to share with our viewers?
Let's see. Well, you and I were talking about integrity before and what that means. And for me, that's just one example where I can pick up a book and read about integrity. And it sounds great, sounds cool. But in the moments when we have to stay in integrity, I think the main one that comes to mind is staying in integrity with myself, essentially. And what that means for me is, am I saying, or am I doing what I say I would do? And when I don't, I feel it's a visceral feeling, hard to put words on it. I feel out of integrity.
Yeah. Where do you feel it when you're in that tension point?
I'd always generally feel that in my gut, here something feels off. And if I don't pay attention to it, it's always kind of there. Yeah.
Nothing that an Alka-Seltzer can't fix. It's just, it lingers.
Yeah. Or coming back into integrity fixes it too. So
yeah.
And what that generally means is just opening up, revealing, for example, if I'm not able to do something that I said I would do, coming forward and just being open about it and not trying to hide it. And just, so that for me is something that, in terms of an example, I practice more of, not only professionally, but even in my day-to-day life. It's just revealing what's really happening on the inside of Jonathan, and not just putting a mask on and, giving the nod and wave. Everything's good.
Yeah. Oh, I so hear that. I'm curious, where did your initial spark, and if you didn't have a light bulb moment, that's okay. But this drive to understand more about human behavior, do you have a moment in time where that kind of just lit up inside you?
I would say ever since I was a kid, without knowing it, now I go back and I can pay attention. Even within my family dynamics, I would always be paying attention to what people would do. And it wasn't so much in a judgmental way, but what I would do is I would observe and I would pay attention to the results that people would get based on their choices and their actions. And I would just find it interesting, like, oh, interesting. They made X, Y choice, and there's the result or the impact. And I would notice that some people would be happy with their choices, some people would not. And so I was interested what was underneath that as well. I think the other piece that stands out, when I started in the professional world, so to speak, I started to notice some people were really vibrant and happy and energized with what they were doing. Other people were like, bleh, and I said, what the heck's going on there? Why do they look like a zombie doing their job? Exactly. And so that also sparked a bulb in me and said, why is it that one person is so vibrant and energized in their role or what they're doing in the world and another one is not? Like, what's the driving factor behind that? And and I mean, I continue to get underneath that, but it fascinates me.
Yeah. And just how much like perception can play a part in all of that too. That adds a completely different lens to the human experience. So actually on that note, this was a great segue. Do you have a piece of paper nearby? I have like a little activity. Let's dive in a little bit deeper into Jonathan Perez. Okay. On this piece of paper, can you just draw a line down the middle of it? I also didn't ask if you had a pen, but let's assume you do. Okay.
Ready.
Great. So on the left side, I want you to write down 5 words that you would use to describe yourself.
Okay.
And take your time.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Other side of the paper, 5 words that friends would use to describe you yourself.
Interesting. Now I want to ask. Some of these might be like 2 words, but they're 1. Hyphen.
That's okay. I'll allow it. Okay. Will you share with the group what your words are on the left?
Yeah, there was some overlap. So on the left side, I would describe myself as joyful, authentic, committed, fun, and loving, in 5 words. And then how I've heard, but also would assume that friends would describe me as fun. The 2-parter is on it, just on it, whatever it is, it's on it. Committed, alive, and energized.
Okay. I actually, from a outsider, there's a lot of similarities between both. Is there something that like stands out that you think are kind of at odds with one another?
At odds. Yeah, it does feel similar. So, I mean, the on the left side, I didn't put anything. Maybe committed is one that's. Yeah, I wouldn't say they're at odds. Let's dig into that.
Yeah. What do you think what called you to write different words for, I feel like, similar sentiments? Because when I hear committed, I also hear on it. Yeah. Where do you think that comes from, that distinction?
Maybe one is more externally based in terms of the results you can see. And maybe the other, like, to me, committed feels more, I mean, the reason I wrote it on the left side is more of an internal experience.
Yeah. Yeah, could be. What else comes up when you look at the 2 lists?
I love it. I think it's interesting to see maybe where I was like 10 years ago compared to now. I think it would be different, especially on the right side.
Okay. Yeah. And what if we like threw family in there? Do you think the words on the right would have shifted more?
I would probably add like caring. I'm thinking of my family specifically. Yeah, pretty similar though, probably.
Okay. I ask because I think of, a lot of the work that we do here is we're helping leaders, people leaders, project leaders, maybe just individual contributors seeking to grow their potential and like have more of a stake in, the ground and the work that they do. And there's this beautiful dynamic of balancing authenticity and also adapting to the people that are around you.
Yeah.
I almost envision it's like the start of a joke where it's like a zebra and a chameleon walk into a bar. Or it's like the zebra is like our authentic self, you're showing your stripes. As a chameleon though, you're able to like really adapt to like who's in the room. Yep. So I'm curious when I share that like balance of authenticity and adaptability, like what comes to mind, what really sticks out for you with that dynamic?
Yeah. Well, now maybe that goes to my comment, what I was saying, maybe if I were to look at this even 5 to 10 years ago, it's I think now that I'm looking at it, there's more congruence or alignment. But before, I would, to your point, and this did happen because this is before I got a lot of feedback and really began to really get exposure to coaching and other things to really have people reflect back to me, well, you think you're this way, but the way I experience you is a little bit different. And so the way that I relate to that is I would essentially feel that I was conveying something through how I was showing up, but I was experienced as maybe more serious or not as energized, so to speak. But to me, I thought I was being. Right. And so, but there were times I remember very clearly where I would want to put on a show that I was positive, energized, whatever, but I didn't really feel like that inside. There was an incongruence in me. And so that's been a lot of the feedback I've gotten, especially from great coaches when they say, is that how you really feel inside? Because I don't know. And you can sense it. So that's what comes up. And it's an interesting journey because it's difficult. I remember opening up myself to that type of feedback. It was not easy because I would take it as criticism, right? But it wasn't criticism. It's more so here's just simply how we experience you.
It's feedback.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. So it sounds like your recommendation for folks would be talk to a coach. Good thing is we have a lot of Thoughtium coaches within our space, so they have an opportunity to use us as a resource to get a little bit closer to how, individuals are perceived. But let's say, if they wanted to start that inner work for themselves, like how can they start to kind of unpack maybe this incongruency and what do they do with it?
Yeah, for sure. So it's hard because we have a certain image, and I say we because I included myself. Obviously, we have a certain way that we think about ourselves. And I think the way now, based on my experience, that I would suggest people do this is list out a couple of questions. Like, hey, especially if you have people in your life that you do a lot of work with, it can be colleagues, it can be family members, they experience you on a day-to-day basis or even a few times a week. And have them share. You can just ask questions like, hey, what would you say are 3 behaviors that don't support me or that are actually not effective in terms of my leadership or how I show up? And then also it can be something like, what are 3 things or 3 behaviors that you would call out that are effective in terms of how I show up? What's maybe one thing that you feel is a blind spot for me? And so those type of questions, and by the way, even when I say that, if you do something like this, you want to set the person up for success in terms of, I suggest when we do this with family or colleagues sometimes to actually say, all I get to say is thank you for the feedback. Because what we can do, and I used to do this all the time. Oh, well, the reason for that is this. So let me explain. No, none of that. So we just receive it and we just do in terms of what to do with it. We reflect on it. We sit with it. And one other thing in terms of getting started with it with feedback is if we believe it's either true or not true. So if someone says, oh, well, I think that XYZ behavior is not effective, that's just my experience of it. And then I say, oh, that's not true. My learning is over. That's it.
Yeah.
Rather, if I say, and this is the suggestion if you're getting started, is, how might that be true? Or what about that what truth might be in what they're saying. I don't have to agree with everything.
1% even, like what's 1% of truth
At a
that
minimum,
can come out of that?
100%.
Yeah,
So getting started, I think that's what helps ourselves not take it as personal. And so, and the other way I would just say to look at it that's been helpful for me is that as individuals, there's nothing wrong with us fundamentally, right? We're just a bunch of patterns, and our brains are wired in a certain way, and then we operate in the world in certain ways, and those can all be changed. And so it's never personal. They're just patterns that can be changed, and you're getting feedback on how those patterns are being experienced in the world. So for anyone getting started, that's my suggestion. And having a coach is helpful because usually as coaches, we reflect things back to you and in a way that's supportive of who we know you want to be.
Right. And it's out of love. Even if
100%.
it comes maybe a little bit harsh, it's coming from a place of growth and development.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I love what you did. You called out the things to celebrate that people are doing well, and maybe like where the things feel a little bit sticky on the receiving end, because I don't know, I can think of, those who are high performers and just are eager to get better and better. You can lose sight of those things that they're doing really well. And then you might like lose that gift or quality because no one's telling you that it's actually being received well. Yeah. So I like that duality there.
Yeah, they're both just as true because and it's interesting you mentioned that. And that's a human thing that we do because of the survival brain. We tend to want to focus on, okay, cool, I don't really care about what's going well. Tell me the things that are going bad. And it's an interesting dynamic in the human mechanism.
It sure is. So speaking of your human mechanism, what's maybe something going on or that our team just doesn't know about you that you'd like to share? And assuming probably the viewers here also don't know about you. Yeah,
maybe some. I don't know how many folks know, but one of the things that I love is actually like dance music, like electronic music, that type of vibe. And so what I'm going to get into is I'm going to actually get a whole set. I'm just going to do the thing. Like a whole DJ set.
You're going to be the DJ.
Essentially, yes.
Oh, cool.
So on my side time, that's something that I absolutely love. And so I even got to a point one time where I got classes on how to produce it. It's very intricate in terms of the layers. So yeah, music fascinates me. And another fun fact, to me it's a fun fact because I have to remember in high school, I was in drum line. So I played the snare drum. So that began a big journey of music as well.
Yeah. That's so cool. And the snare drum's like the little guy that you wear.
Yeah, the little one. So if you ever watched the movie Drumline with Nick Cannon, I used to watch that movie and just go wild.
That's so cool. When was last time you drummed a drum?
It's been a little while probably. I had a little practice pad because it's not as loud. So yeah. So but it's been like an actual drum a couple of years probably. So maybe something.
What would it take you to bring it back?
Yeah, I'd have to maybe go to like a high school or a college and find a snare drum in there in the marching band.
Can I borrow this really quick?
I would do.
I'll bring it back maybe.
Something like that.
Very fun. Yeah, very cool. How about I got this question the other day and I thought it was so fascinating. What was the last thing that you did for the first time?
For the first time. Let's see. I don't remember the day. This is probably a silly one.
We accept silly.
I ate, to me it's silly relative, right? I ate raw onions for the first time. Like raw, just out of, I used to always not like onions since I was a kid. And I said, you know what, let's see if that's changed.
Like straight raw onion?
Just straight,
have it on like a
No, just tried it. I actually took it from a plate like on the side and I had never, I don't remember as a kid ever doing that. And so that felt very new to me because I always had this thought I'll never eat onions, but they're pretty good.
Was it liberating? Like,
it was interesting. Yeah. So now I don't refuse onions. I just eat them with whatever they're on for the most part. So that was interesting.
Amazing. That is interesting.
Yeah.
No right or wrong answer. That one's a fun one. Do you remember what type of onion? Did we go like
the one
red
was
it
was the one with the purple layer on the outside.
That's a red onion.
Ah, beautiful. So it was a red onion. Yes.
It's kind of like grapes. For some reason, it's called a red grape, but it's purple. Either way.
Yes.
Welcome to the Onion Club. I'm a sucker for onions, so it's good to have another one.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be welcomed to the club.
No matter how late in life, but there's always time to try something new, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very good. Okay, what about the last time you laughed so hard your stomach hurt? Can you recall that experience?
Ooh. Last time. Yeah, I think I was with people. I'm remembering the moment. Actually, it was at our offsite. That was probably the last time I almost think it wasn't throwing up. I wasn't going to throw up, but I could feel my stomach was starting to hurt. It was like an ab
Yeah.
workout.
What was the moment? Do you remember what it was?
We were doing that game, the activity in the game at night together. I forget
Oh,
what
it
was
was
called.
not charades.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, a fishbowl where
Yes.
there's like different rounds. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
part of the game do you remember?
It was, without giving away our Thoughtium offsite secret moments. It was the moment when Michael was doing his thing towards the end.
Oh, he was under a sheet trying to. So for those who don't know, fishbowl has different rounds, and it starts off as charades. So like everyone has to put like a word in a bowl. Then the first round you have to like act it out. Second round you put all the words back in. So it's also a memory game, right?
Yeah.
In the second round, I think you have to use like one word to describe the word that you need people to guess. And then Michael threw in a kicker round where you had to act out the thing under a sheet.
Yeah.
And that round
awesome.
was cut short quickly. But man, that was a highlight. That was a pinnacle of the game.
Beautiful.
That was good.
So if Michael's listening now, everybody knows. I love it.
Yes. And if anyone needs some like team icebreaker games that are fun and not corny, we are the people to go to.
100%.
Oh, that's such a good one.
True. So yeah, that was the last time. For whatever reason, my abs were hurting from laughing. My stomach was hurting.
Yeah. Oh, it takes me back for sure. That's a good one. Okay, different question for you. How about maybe is there like a habit that you are working on breaking right now?
Yeah, I would say the main one is just having a better relationship with distractions. So for example, if I'm getting a chunk of work done or getting something done, just really focusing on that. And usually I can do it, but what I mean is getting distractions out of the way. So not checking email or not checking Slack or not checking something within that 45-minute or 30-minute or 1 hour window. And just trusting that if I check it a little bit later, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. What has helped you make that leap, that transition?
It's as simple for me as not just like on a Mac, not just closing it, but when I remove it from the dock, that helps. And then also just having the one window open without me being able to see other apps. And so it's an interesting thing, but even just visually, it helps me focus there. And the other thing is, which to me has taken more energy and effort, but it works over time, is just noticing the urge and simply stopping it. And so that's another thing that for me is before I do the thing, just catch myself. Wow, I felt the urge right there to go do something else. That's not what I said I would do in the next 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's so real because we have this idea that we're supposed to be really strong multitaskers in life and like connected to all of these things when actually there is no, I'm demystifying a myth.
Yeah.
That multitasking isn't real. It's task switching is what we're actually doing. Like neurologically, you can't be doing two things at once. You might be really good at like switching where your focus is. But at the end of the day, all you're doing is focusing, and the amount of cognitive energy that we use for that, it's wild.
Yeah. That's it. I think that's what I'm picking up on is the amount of energy to switch and really get into focus again is a lot. Yeah. So that's the one.
Well, kudos to you. Yeah, that's a big one. So for those listeners, it's possible, but it's like building a muscle. You just got to keep doing it. Get back on the horse, if you will. So I see you. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Well, I have one final question for you before we wrap today.
Okay.
And I know you already did your list of qualities about yourself that you gave yourself that you think your friends, they perceive you to be. If there's one quality or like one word that really sticks out about Jonathan, what word is that? Don't share it yet, but just think about it and tell me when you have it.
Yeah, for me, the one I always do my best to aspire to and really embody.
Wait, don't say it yet. You're gonna fill in the blank.
Hey, I thought you were.
Okay, but you have it.
Okay. I do have it. Okay, go.
Okay. If the world were more like Jonathan, it would be
more joyful.
Oh, joyful.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that was, to be fair, that was the first word you wrote down about yourself too, I think, was joyful.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, to our listeners, find ways to bring more joy into your world, because it can be easy to lose sight of that, and maybe just tap into your inner child, your younger Jonathan, if you will, to find more of that joy, right?
Yeah, I would agree. 100%.
It could be trying something new, like an onion. It could be a lot of things, but nonetheless, trying to bring it all together. Thank you, Jonathan, for your time today. This will not be the last.
Thank you.
And thank you, listeners. This was episode 202 of Navigating Now, part of our Meet the Team series. Signing off here is Nicole Deal and Jonathan Perez.
Awesome.
Thanks all.
Thank you. See